Hello there, my dear viewers. Do you truly want to see and experience whether this cucumber will be crushed by our gate? Then please stay tuned for the results. Right now, I'm sitting here comfortably with all of you in the lovely warmth. The sun is shining down, the lights are glowing beautifully, just as it is right here in this moment. I'm singing a special song that only the two of us can sing together. And in the city where you do not live just yet, there is so much more for us to explore. But before we proceed any further with our discussion today, I would like to invite you to take a very close and careful look at this comprehensive video presentation regarding the subject matter at hand. Right here, we have compiled all of the essential and highly detailed information that you will need to fully understand every single aspect of this particular topic as it is presented in the following visual demonstration for your convenience and review. The specialized sensors, which I have finally now received once again, are currently being installed. This will definitely be very helpful for some of you watching. I've frequently noticed among my many viewers that some have such a powerful drive but no safety sensors at all, and you'll soon see exactly how strongly this heavy gate presses shut. And then something quite unfortunate like this could easily happen. No, that was actually a bit of a mistake. Just an animation, and I hope that doesn't happen to you. Now let's take a look at what the sensors look like and how everything is installed, because that wasn't easy. Hello dear Batsa friends, I never would have thought there would be so much interest in this electric motor that opens and closes the gate. Just the other day someone was here 30 kilometers away. Philippe, hello Philippe, right? I met a Swiss guy who also wants to install something like this, but he doesn't know yet which package to buy. Again, I bought the minimal package, so basically just the drive with the mounting bracket and the limit switch. If you want to order something like this, I'll check Lazada. I bought mine from Lazada, then get the complete package. That means, for example, 4 meters of rack are also included. You don't have to order them separately. And a laser light barrier is included as well. That wasn't the case with mine, as you saw in part 2. And at the end of the video, you'll see what happens when there isn't such a safety feature. The motor just stops. Yes, you'll see that at the end of the video. So in part 2, I had this infrared sensor, which I ordered for 550 watts. A kind viewer already mentioned that I need to make sure there's no direct sunlight on it, otherwise it can act up a bit. He told me that in that case the gate will just keep opening and closing over and over. So let's take a look at what was included. The same batteries were already included as well. Here are mounting elements and wall plugs. Here it is, very nicely and securely packed for 550 watts of power. Here is a small, detailed instruction manual that comes with it. I'm going to refer back once again to the specific YouTuber I showed you in part 2 of this series, because he also clearly demonstrated exactly where this component needs to be connected on my motor. So let's take a much closer look at the setup. There should be one right here with a specific cable connection point ready to go. This is the specific cable connection leading to the motor and over to the circuit board. So right here, we already have to use some screws. Yes, it looks like we definitely need to open something up here. Let's quickly go and get a screwdriver, specifically a Phillips head one. But it looks great so far. All right, here we are back again. Let's start to open it up now. In the original video created by the young man from Thailand, we can see the same process. He actually takes the time to show you that specifically because one of these individual units here is completely battery operated for your convenience. And then, if you look closely on the other side, you will see the dedicated cable connection point. So this specific area right here is exactly where the batteries go in to power the device. And with a high quality unit like this one right here, I truly think the internal batteries will last for a very long time. So as we can see, we already have a little red light appearing, a blinking red light just now. At the present moment, I'm not even entirely sure how I need to connect it all together. So here is the note for us to follow. We have the motor, the sensor, and the transmitter included in the kit. The entirety of this document is, of course, written in English. And since I really want to be absolutely certain and sure about exactly what it says, I've captured a clear digital photograph of it with a translation app, and can now carefully read through every single detail at my own leisure. These are the instructions for setting the switches. For example, the alarm time is set to 5 seconds. Switch number 2 should be in position 1. When someone, or perhaps a car, or another object blocks the infrared beam, the light barrier sensor will emit a signal for 5 seconds. By the way, if the battery is empty, it will also blink the red light and beep as well. Someone mentioned that if the battery is dead, you no longer have any security, but the device will beep in that case. So now we need to take a look at what it says down there. For example, let us begin by setting the specific alarm time to exactly 5 seconds. Now look at switch number 1, which is set for 3 seconds. So what they are clearly explaining here is that there are 5 individual switches in total. The first ones, specifically switches 1 through 3, are most likely used for setting the precise time duration. And as for switch number 4, this is where the buzzer sounds in the event of an alarm being triggered. Finally, switch number 5 is for the installation mode, where the buzzer sounds to confirm the setup is complete. But where exactly can we find the plus and minus signs now? Oh, that is actually quite easy to see. For the DC and AC connections, there are clearly marked plus and minus symbols for the power supply. And right over here, you can see that there are a few more additional outputs available. Okay, then that is actually quite simple and straightforward to understand. So right here we have, let me show you more closely, there are these specific little toggle switches. They are primarily used for the purpose of accurately setting the alarm time. I honestly have no idea what exactly is included in the alarm time settings. We will definitely have to try it out for ourselves. And down here in this section, we have the AC power connection. And now we really need to watch the instructional video from that young man again to see exactly how he connected it. That is really quite important so that this specific component here responds correctly to the motor. For example, right here on the label it says COM, NC, no and O//P for that particular part. Honestly, I have absolutely nothing to say for that. I personally find that to be a bit weak. The total distance is 15 meters, but nobody really has a gate that is quite that big. The alarm time settings are 3 seconds, 5 seconds and 10 seconds. I would assume that when the gate is finally activated by the remote control, this loud alarm sound will go off and everyone nearby will know, hey, something is happening right here. Please be careful. Now that we have seen exactly what the sensor looks like and all the various connections, I tried to do some extensive research on the internet to find out precisely what goes where, but that wasn't so easy at all. With this specific part here, it's actually relatively simple. We have the left connection for the plus terminal and the right one for the minus. And then we can bridge this, which is also minus. And then all we have left is this final part. No is written here. That's where we have to connect. But then what does it look like here? And then I also saw on the internet that there are different circuit boards for the motor unit. For example, I have the one with 2 potentiometers. That's just to identify the whole thing. But there are also ones with 3. So what did I notice here on the circuit board? There's a button, push button. That's a push button to open and close the gate. And up here is a push button to clone the remote control. We've already talked about that before. So you can do that here. And here at these two, that's plus and minus. That's 220 volts. And then we have the connections here, and there are different ones here on the screen. I'll show you here. Let me enlarge this image for you so you can see it much more clearly. This is the specific unit that you can order along with it. It looks kind of like a small egg. And then you can carefully follow the detailed wiring diagram to see exactly how it is connected right here. Now over here, it is actually a little bit different, and I will show you that in just a brief moment. Now we will perform the very first test here with this particular thing. Let us see if the motor is strong enough to handle it. I was initially worried that the impact might have been strong enough to cause serious damage to the vehicle. However, looking closely at the frame, it appears the metal is just slightly dented rather than broken. It is a relief that the structural integrity seems fine. Please remain exactly where you are for a moment, so we can safely assess the situation and document the condition of the car before anyone moves. But I really want to have a precise measurement of the weight. Now I have another idea that might work perfectly for us. Just wait a moment while I set things up. I have a regular bathroom scale right here, and now we will carefully let it drive onto the scale to see the results. I will move the camera over here so you can get a better view. I truly hope you can see clearly now exactly how many kilos it is pressing down with as we check the final reading together. It is weighing in at exactly 30 kilos. The heavy gate is currently pressing down with a force of 30 kilos. Just look at that, 30 kilos. That is already becoming quite dangerous for anyone nearby. The curious neighbors have already started to come over from their houses and are standing around watching what kind of silly things the foreigner is doing here today. So, as you can see, 30 kilos is actually quite something significant to deal with. You won't get killed or cut in half by it, but getting out of there would definitely be painful. I think there's a worm drive inside, and worm drives are self-locking, so you wouldn't have any chance of getting out. In any case, we're going to install the sensors now, and then take a look at how it all works. And don't worry, dear DIY friends, this is also my first time. So here I have, this is the receiver back there. It goes on the other side, but I still need to make a mount for it. I thought I'd put it here. In all the instructions I've seen and read, it's supposed to be between 30 and 40 centimeters high, which would be about this height. So I want to attach it right here to the housing on the opposite side. That's where it will go. Receiver or reflector or, well, it doesn't matter. Now, let's open up the housing first. You don't need to be afraid if you haven't assembled it yourself yet. As I've heard, there are some of you who already have something like this, but you don't have a sensor yet, and that can actually be dangerous. So let's take this off, and now we have the whole circuit board here. Let's take a look inside the unit now. Let's carefully open this up together. So, just to repeat the instructions as I just explained on the screen a moment ago, right here is the plus and the minus. You don't actually have anything to do with that part of the circuit. You only have this specific section here, which is currently the big unknown factor. I can already clearly see a plus sign marked right there. That means the positive DC connection has to be securely connected to that point. And then over on the other side, we have the minus, the ground, and the G terminal. It clearly says end right over there. That specific part has to be connected directly to this one here. And regarding this no, I wasn't quite sure about that at first. That could potentially be the FSW here. In another video I watched, it was connected back there to the COM port. No, wait, where exactly was that? It definitely wasn't there. Ah, here it is, number 1. So we will definitely have to experiment quite a bit with that setup to be sure. You are currently in a very lucky position indeed, because you will actually get to see exactly what comes out in the very end. So let's go ahead and carefully open this up right now. For the specific connection from this point here to this point over here, we are going to need to use a standard 3-core cable. Now, what I'm going to do next, for important safety reasons, you probably already saw it mentioned in the first part back there, is that I have a dedicated circuit breaker ready to go. First, I'm going to disconnect the power supply. Otherwise, I'm sure all the electricians watching this would already be getting quite nervous. So now, absolutely nothing can happen here because there's no power running through the lines. We can safely go ahead and begin to install everything as planned. However, I had a bit of a problem with the bracket on the other side. I realized that I don't actually have a mounting plate available right now. There definitely needs to be a sturdy mounting plate attached here first, and getting a metal plate from somewhere is also a bit tricky. And so I have a video about this. I think it's still coming up. Was at the hardware store, and there I took a board that you'd normally use to cut on with a knife, a 5mm thick plastic sheet, sturdy, and I'm going to set it up so that I can screw it in place back there just like before. You should spray it with a nice matte finish, and then visually it will be integrated perfectly as well. So now we're finally getting into the complex electrical part of the project, where most people would probably stop and say, hey, that's definitely not for me. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, there are several different types of circuit boards available. My specific board, as I said before, has these two small potentiometers located right here, though I'm still not exactly sure what their specific functions are for this setup. We can experiment with those settings for a bit. I think they have something to do with the speed. That was for the open and close functions. No reaction, no power. And here is where you can clone keys to connect them here. I've already done that, no problem. Now let's move this over. Okay, now I need to attach this here. Pretty far over here on the structural arch. Now there's a quite noticeable hole right here. I'll prepare all of that carefully back in the workshop, and then with the 3 specific ADN cables, I'll come back over here and we'll connect everything together properly. So let's just pause here for a moment. I'll show you in just a brief moment exactly what I wanted to do here. Hello, my dear viewers. Now I've already been working hard at it for almost 2 full hours now. I have been diligently working on it, but it just didn't work the exact way it was described in the tutorials online. Probably because it's a completely different circuit board and various other technical complications. But now it finally works. The entire experimental test setup is finished. What was particularly strange was that down here, there was an unexpected loop coming from the communication port. I decided to connect one wire directly to the ground terminal. At that moment, I thought to myself that since it clearly says COM right there on the label, it made the most sense to connect it to the COM port instead. We are definitely going to revisit that specific step again later in the process. All I can really say right now is that I was honestly about to lose my mind from the sheer frustration of it all. I spent a long time trying absolutely everything here, testing every single connection available on the board, but nothing seemed to be working the way I expected it to. That's the reflector, so to speak, a small handheld device for this task. If you hold it over the target area, you will hear a distinct click, or rather, you'll notice a little blue light turns on. That specific feedback makes the entire alignment process much easier for you later on. You don't actually need a laser level or any other complicated tools like that. You just use this simple tool to align it perfectly back there. Okay, let's get started with the installation. Let's open it up and see what is inside. That is perfectly fine. So now let us carefully hold the whole assembly together. Then we shall proceed to close it once again. And then we must go through this section here. Consequently, the gate opens up again, ensuring that the person does not get crushed by the mechanism. Now you can see the tripod has just been pushed over to the side. That works exactly as intended. And if you now take a moment to click the jumper, specifically number 4. So I have one here ready to go. So then you will also hear a distinct acoustic signal sounding an alert whenever the 2 components no longer match up correctly. At this moment, you can see that the blue indicator light is clearly on. As I proceed to go through the passage, you will notice that absolutely nothing happens here either. Let us take a moment to close it up once again. After a short pause, the gate begins its movement and opens up for us one more time, demonstrating the full cycle of the system's response. Okay, what also happened is that I switched the jumper here on the motor. I was actually online in the meantime and watched a few more videos. Man, stop it. Yes, here's a motor jumper. I switched that too. That was when I saw the first reaction from the gate. But then I realized I had to reposition the limit switches, the magnetic limit switches in height, because it no longer... So please keep that important point in mind. If you already happen to have something exactly like this and you want to retrofit it properly, it might not necessarily work on the very first try, or it might lift the gate just enough to catch the next tooth, but then you see it was already completely blocked back there. You would definitely have to adjust the rocker switch right here. So now that is done, I can finally put everything back together and back there where it belongs, attach it, and then we'll take a look at it once everything is nicely and cleanly installed. But honestly, For the last 2 hours, I must have gone online 4 or 5 times thinking, this can't be true, this just can't be true. This unit absolutely has to have 4 cables. There's no way around it. I was already puzzled by this communication, why he put it like that on the internet. So once again, we can observe that we have both the plus and the minus terminals situated right here. The FSW component then gets properly connected, and although it initially says no, it repeats no and no again, and then the COM port gets connected directly over here to the corresponding COM terminal. Once that is finished, the entire system begins to work exactly like that. Perhaps now we can see the configuration better, and over here in this section, you can see all of the other cables that are part of this setup. Actually, never give up is my personal motto that I live by every single day. Although I do find it necessary to take a little quiet break in between tasks just to collect myself and regain my focus. So now, with everything prepared and ready to go, I'm going to carefully activate jumper 1 and jumper 4 in the correct sequence, and then I'll listen very closely for any sound or signal that might come through the system to indicate that our connection is finally working as we expected it to. The sensor is currently emitting a steady beeping sound. So if any object happens to come in between the path right now, I know for certain that the signal is reflecting back. And now, the next step we have to take is to carefully mount it on the exact opposite side. Okay, it has completely stopped beeping now. That specific change tells me that it is successfully receiving the signal. Let us observe and see exactly how far the tolerance level goes. And I can also clearly see the small blue light glowing back there in the distance. Now that it's finally on, we can safely secure the whole thing right here. Now it is firmly fixed in place. I would definitely paint it all black now, and then let's give it a proper try. Well, my dear fellow DIY friends, we are finally done. It actually took quite a bit longer than I had originally expected, because I honestly thought what I saw on the internet would come in many different parts. Because this specific motor model is very, very popular here in Thailand, and it's currently beeping because I'm standing directly in the light barrier or the infrared safety sensor. So now let's try the whole thing out together. We're closing the gate now, and as you can see, the gate opens right back up again. Some people have previously said that you should definitely install a dedicated stop switch. That's actually a very interesting point. And it is something we should consider. That's exactly when you have to press a specific button somewhere. And then something happens, and when you finally take your thumb off, it immediately stops. But how am I honestly supposed to do that when I'm busy driving a car? Am I really supposed to keep pressing a physical button the whole time? So that's just not possible at all. Right. I'm really incredibly proud of it. We can stop for a moment. Then we start the closing process. And we'll see each other very soon. I am really looking forward to seeing you all at the next DIY event. And as I mentioned before, next time it will be the Swivel Barbecue Project, which is something I specifically promised you. Have you already had a chance to see my latest idea for it? It is actually not very complicated at all once you get started. Ah, wait a second. Now the dog is getting right in the way of the shot. Hey there, Kugel, please come over here for a moment. Now the latch won't close properly because of him. Yeah, that is just how it goes sometimes. Bye for now, and I will see you soon. Bye.